You spent your entire life believing that being intelligent was the path, that the more you knew, the faster you thought, the further you'd go. But what if I told you the system was never built to reward your brilliant mind? What if the truth was even more disturbing? The system was designed to silence it, to domesticate it, to turn your flame into obedient ashes. There's an illusion sold to us since childhood. Our parents tell us, study, be the best student, get the best grades. Teachers reinforce it. Those who stand out will be rewarded. Society itself seems to shout in unison that intelligence is the most valuable currency you can carry. And we believed it. We believed it with such conviction that we dedicated decades of our lives chasing diplomas, certificates, approvals. We sacrificed nights of sleep, moments with loved ones, experiences that will never return, all in the name of a promise that, deep down, never existed. Because the system wasn't created to elevate the most intelligent, it was architected to create functional pieces, gears that turn without questioning, workers who produce without asking why. When you understand this, when this truth pierces your consciousness like lightning, something inside you breaks. But don't worry. Sometimes something needs to break for something greater to be born. Think for a moment about the educational structure that shaped your mind. From the earliest years, you were conditioned to sit in rows, to raise your hand to speak, to wait for permission to use the bathroom. You learned that there are right answers and wrong answers, that the teacher holds the truth and you must absorb it passively. The natural curiosity that every child carries, that insatiable desire to ask why about everything, was systematically pruned. Every time you questioned too much, you were seen as problematic. Every time your thinking diverged from what was expected, you were corrected. The system doesn't want minds that question. It wants minds that obey. And the great irony is that we call this education, when in reality it's a long process of domestication. The ancient philosophers knew this. Socrates was sentenced to death for asking uncomfortable questions. He committed no crime. He simply refused to accept the ready-made truths that Athenian society offered. His intelligence was too dangerous to be tolerated, and thousands of years later, the pattern repeats. The most brilliant minds rarely occupy the positions of greatest power. They're relegated to laboratories, to cubicles, to positions where their potential is channeled to serve interests that aren't their own. But why does this happen? The answer lies in the very nature of power. Control structures, whether governments, corporations, or institutions, need predictability. They need to know that the pieces will move in the expected way. A truly intelligent mind is unpredictable. It questions orders, identifies contradictions, proposes alternatives. This is threatening to those in command. That's why the system developed sophisticated mechanisms of neutralization. It's not a dark conspiracy plotted in secret rooms. It's something more subtle and, for that very reason, more effective. It's the culture that tells us not to be arrogant, not to think we're better than others. It's the social pressure that ridicules those who know too much, who speak differently, who think outside the box. It's the corporate environment that promotes the mediocre but political employee, while the solitary genius remains stagnant. If this idea has already resonated with you, imagine what comes next. Subscribe so you don't miss this journey. Now, I need you to look at your own story. How many times did you dim your light to fit into small spaces? How many times did you pretend not to know something so you wouldn't seem arrogant? How many times did you swallow a brilliant idea because you knew it would be ignored or, worse, ridiculed? I'm not asking to make you feel bad. I'm asking because I want you to recognize the invisible weight you carry. Most intelligent people have developed over the years a kind of inverted armor. Instead of protecting themselves from the world, they protect themselves from themselves. They learn to distrust their own perceptions, to doubt their instincts, to sabotage themselves before the world does. It's as if there were an internal voice constantly whispering, "Who do you think you are?" That voice wasn't born with you, it was planted. Every unfair criticism, every look of disapproval, every moment when your intelligence was treated as a defect instead of a gift, left a mark. And these marks accumulated until they formed a narrative that says you're too much, that you need to hold back, that the world isn't ready for what you have to offer. But that narrative is a lie, a convenient lie for a system that profits from your containment. Think about the people around you. How many of them live lives of quiet desperation, as Thoreau said? How many wake up every day to jobs they don't love, relationships that don't nourish them, routines that slowly suffocate them? And among these people, how many carry within themselves revolutionary ideas that will never see the light of day? How many unwritten books, uncreated inventions, unrealized works of art? The waste of human potential is the greatest tragedy of our civilization. And it happens every day, on a massive scale, because the system taught brilliant people to doubt themselves. But there's an even deeper secret that few know. The neutralization of intelligence isn't just external. The most devastating part happens within us. When we internalize the system's messages, we become our own jailers. We no longer need anyone telling us to be quiet. We silence ourselves. We don't need anyone stopping us from creating. We sabotage ourselves. It's as if there were an internal inspector, a severe guardian who learned the rules of the game so well that he now applies them with fanatic zeal. Liberation, therefore, doesn't come from tearing down external structures. It begins with the inner revolution. It begins when you recognize this guardian for what it is, a construction, an installed program, not a fundamental truth about who you are. The Stoic philosophers spoke about the dichotomy of control. There are things we can control and things we cannot. The external system, for the most part, is beyond our immediate reach, but our internal response, our way of interpreting and reacting, that is entirely ours. And here's the key. You don't need the system's permission to use your intelligence. You don't need external validation to know that your ideas have value. Institutional recognition is pleasant, but it's not necessary. Throughout history, the most transformative minds were those who created outside official channels, who built their own paths when the existing roads proved blocked. Van Gogh sold a single painting in his lifetime. Kafka asked for his manuscripts to be burned. Emily Dickinson published fewer than a dozen poems while she lived. The system didn't recognize them, but eternity did. The question isn't whether you'll be rewarded by the system. The question is whether you'll have the courage to create despite it, to think despite it, to live your intelligence fully, even when no one is applauding. This requires a fundamental shift in perspective. Instead of seeking approval, seek authenticity. Instead of trying to fit in, allow yourself to overflow. Water that tries to fit into a container too small becomes stagnant. Water that flows freely finds its own course, carves its own paths, eventually reaches the sea. Practically, this means a few things. It means stopping waiting for the perfect moment to share your ideas. It means creating before you feel ready. It means accepting that not everyone will understand you, and that's perfectly fine. The most valuable minds in history were misunderstood in their time. If you feel out of place, it might be a sign that you're on the right path. And here we arrive at the revelation that connects everything. The system doesn't neutralize intelligence because it's evil. It does so because it's afraid. Because deep down, those who built and maintain the structures of power know a frightening truth. True intelligence cannot be controlled. It can be temporarily contained, diverted, put to sleep, but not destroyed. It always finds a way to emerge, like water under pressure that eventually breaks the dam, like seeds that crack concrete in search of light. The history of humanity is the history of brilliant minds that refused to be silenced, that paid terrible prices for their audacity, but that ultimately transformed the world. And you're part of this lineage, not by chance, but by nature. The intelligence that pulses within you is not an evolutionary error. It's not a burden to be carried. It's a gift to be offered. And the world, despite all its resistance, desperately needs what you have to give. Not tomorrow. Not when conditions are perfect. Now. With all the imperfections, with all the fears, with all the doubts, because the alternative is silence. And the silence of a brilliant mind is a loss that the entire universe mourns. So here's my final message to you. Stop asking permission to be who you are. Stop waiting for the system to recognize your worth. Stop dimming your light so you don't outshine eyes accustomed to darkness. The world doesn't need more obedient people. It needs people who think, who question, who create, who dare. And if you've made it this far, if these words touch something inside you, then you are one of those people. Don't waste it. Don't let fear or doubt or social pressure steal from you the full expression of your potential. You came into this world with something unique to offer. Offer it. If this video ignited something in you, leave your like, share it with someone who needs to awaken, and subscribe to the channel. Because this journey is just beginning, and the next steps promise to be even more revealing.